So for this exercise, I decided to look at just one vertical, coffee shops, or more precisely, coffee shops/cafes. I wanted to look at both their similarities and their differences, what makes a cafe, as well as what makes one cafe more successful in some respects than another. I went to two chain stores, Pete's and Starbucks, as well as the two premier cafes of the area, Cafe Baroni and Coupa Cafe, and two other interesting local cafes, Cafe Venezia, which is a high-end European-style place, and Cafe Zoe, which is very much a local neighborhood cafe. One of the first things that you notice when you approach any of these cafes is that they've all got tables outside. It may be just two, but there are always tables. This is about atmosphere. Sitting outside and people watching is part of the cafe experience. However, the individual cafes handle the requirement very differently. For Cafe Zoe and Pete's, it's almost cursory. There are a couple of tables outside, check done. Starbucks takes the front part of their store and turns it into a walled patio. You sit outside, but you're cut off from the bustle of the street. Coupa has a small patio, and it's so thick with tables you almost have to squeeze around them to get into the store. Oddly, this increases its charm. Cafe Baroni and Cafe Venezia have very interesting approaches. Baroni has a huge outdoor patio that's filled with tables and umbrellas, and it's just gorgeous. Cafe Venezia is a much smaller place without a patio. They have the required two tables outside, but they've also set up the entrance to the store so that people can sit at a counter along the entryway and look out into the street. It's not quite outdoor seating, but it does project the energy of the store outside in a very appealing way. Inside the cafes, there's a real emphasis on creating a warm atmosphere. The cabinets and lower parts of the walls are often dark warm wood, and the floor may be wood or stone, but it's always a warm color. There are warm lights hanging from the ceiling. In many cases, the ceilings or upper parts of the walls are painted with a lighter but still warm color, to keep the room from becoming too cave-like. There are two exceptions here. Cafe Zoe is painted dark throughout, and it becomes, at least for me, a little repressive. Cafe Baroni uses cool colors, grays and greens, and they've got a dark ceiling. Yet Baroni is probably the most inviting cafe of them all. Well, what's going on here? To understand why Baroni works so well, you have to go back to that immense patio they have, and the great glass window that looks out onto the patio. They're both key to Baroni. When you're inside the cafe, you can't get away from that window. There are only a handful of tables more than 10 feet away from it. Everything stretches out along it. This means that the patio and the world outside become an integral part of the experience, even if you sit inside, and the warmth from the outside diffuses the entire interior, so that the cool colors become accents rather than the main drivers of the experience. The coffee shops all take pains to decorate their walls, which makes sense since the coffee shop experience is all about atmosphere. Here the differences really reflect the different characters of the cafes. Pete's and Starbucks are both pretty corporate. There's art on the walls. It's sort of the visual equivalent of Muzak. Coupa has pictures of the family farms of Venezuela, which matches its South American vibe. Cafe Venezia has an enormous wine display. They don't actually sell much wine, but it emphasizes a sophisticated European angle. Curiously, they also have a monitor showing the Four Musketeers and other pseudo-historical action movies. It's a really nice touch. The casual ubiquity of the video grounds you firmly in the technological present, while the costumes remind you of the link with the European past. Cafe Zoe goes all in to be a neighborhood cafe, and the walls are crowded with local news, works from local artists, and a local services board. The idea works, I think, but the implementation doesn't quite. The shop feels too crowded, and the mismatch of styles is slightly unsettling. I could probably talk about these cafes for the next half hour, but I really want to respect the audience and keep it short. 5 of these 6 cafes are professionally managed by people who have decades of experience in the restaurant/cafe business, and they all shine in their unique ways and probably make money hand over fist. The 6th one, Cafe Zoe, clearly has aspirations, but it's a much humbler place, and this is where most of the opportunities are. From a simply visual perspective, Cafe Zoe is too dark and too crowded. I love the neighborhood angle. I think the owner is right to see this as their unique advantage. But the place feels part dive bar when it should feel slightly upscale. I'd repaint it a warm, lighter color. I'd remove about a third of the stuff that's currently on the walls and counters. My friends have also complained about the uneven food quality and service at Cafe Zoe, and while I agree that they could do better with their staff, I also suspect that customers are likely to be more forgiving if the visuals were a little more reassuringly competent, even at the expense of some of the homey